Okay, so here we are. We're back into the test prep questions. So now the next section, right, we just finished the last section. Next section we have here is going to be all about reports, which is going to be 16% of the exam. So that right there is going to be a huge portion already. It's just reports itself, okay? So it's approximately 8 questions, okay? So a student should know, number 1, why and how to use the report center, okay? Let's talk about what the report center is. What is the report center?
It's where all your transactions are.
Not transactions. This is the report center.
All the reports.
Yes, right, exactly. It's all the reports.
Balance sheet report, profit and loss report.
Okay, so in this case, yes, that's what the report center is for. It's for you to just create your reports, just exactly how it is, right? And so if I go to the report center, right, we talked about how you can view the reports, the different categories on what you can run reports for, right? You could choose to do a sales report. You could choose to do an employee like information report. You could choose to do inventory reports, okay? So in this case, that's how you use the report center, okay? Place to create all the reports, okay? So i.e. Sales reports, inventory, profit and loss. Okay. All right. I threw in another extra line here because I do think it's important to know what the different types of reports are. What are they? Which is the accounting reports and the business management. Now, what's the difference between those two?
Are the accounting reports more of the incoming, outgoing cash flow?
Okay, that's an example of an accounting report, which is the statement of cash flow.
The accounting report contains information about accounting transactions.
Account transactions, good, contains information about accounts. So anything that's in your chart of accounts, that's what those reports are built upon, right? Okay.
And the business management is for to operate the business.
Yes, any information to operate the business, good. So, for example, right, your customers, right? If you have a customers list, that's a business management, right? That tells you whether you need more customers or not. You know, customer balance information tells you how much that they owe you. So what means can you do to encourage your customers to pay on time? Okay. So again, to operate the business. Okay. So this could be in things that you have items. Okay. All right. Now here, I'm going to ask you, I can't find where the question is, but there was a question about what are the financial statements? The 4, or in this case, 3 financial statements that are important for accountants to know for the accounting reports.
Statement of cash flows.
Statement of cash flows is good. What else?
Balance sheet.
Balance sheet.
Statement of equity?
Profit and loss?
There is no statement of
Oh, no,
equity
that's
in
right.
here.
Yeah, because that was combined with,
Correct. And what was that, Isabel?
Profit and loss?
Profit and loss. Okay. Now again, what do these three financial statements do? All right. Why do you need to run these? Okay. So let's start with the statement of cash flows. Okay.
So you see where the money's going?
Yes. Right. Hence the word cash flows. Right. To determine where money is coming in and where is the money going. Right? What about the balance sheet? What's the balance sheet do?
Contain the balance of the accounts.
How so? Because there's a trial balance that does the same thing as well. What does the balance sheet do?
Shows your financial position.
How so?
By showing the different liabilities.
Okay. Assets, liabilities.
Find the balance on each of your assets, liability, and equity accounts.
Excellent, right? So your assets, balances in assets, liabilities, and equity accounts. Now, in grand total, right? The purpose of this is to run the accounting equation, which is to determine, do all of your assets equal your liabilities plus equity? Okay? This is very important because that's exactly what the balance sheet does. It determines whether all your assets equal your liabilities and your equity. Okay? And what does the profit and loss report
it
do?
shows,
I
it
just
shows all, shows all of your income and expenses for a given period.
good income and expenses to determine profitability, right? It will tell you whether you made enough profit. Did your revenues exceed your expenses, right? Or did your expenses exceed your revenues, right? To determine the profitability. So, Nancy, this is where you when you answered for balance sheet, this is where to know where your the standing of your company is would most likely be a profitability. Okay, to see, are you in good terms or are you not in good terms, right? If you're making a profit, means you're good. If you're making a loss, you're not doing so great. Okay. All right, business management, right? We've already took an example. We already took a lot of examples here, right? Whether it's a customer information, whether it's a vendor information, inventory information, your items list, if you have a balance of your items list, right? All of those are going to be business management. Okay. All right, now how to customize reports. All right, how do we do that?
Do preferences?
No. How do I customize my reports? Okay. If I run my profit and loss standard, okay, how do I customize it?
Selecting the dates.
Okay, that's one way you can customize it, but I'm talking about actually customizing this report.
Up on the top left where it says customize report.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I said these questions I'm asking are not that difficult, okay? Some of them are very obvious, right? Straightforward. Go to your reports right there, customize reports. And you have 4 options, right? You can customize the way it looks, right? How do you want it to display, right? Next one is going to be filters. What information do you want to filter out? Okay, so display allows you to show you what kind of columns you want on there. Filters tells you what you want to filter the information for. You could change the headers. So in case if you don't want everything to show up, you could choose specific headers that you could change whether the look of it, the order of it, and then your fonts, of course, pretty straightforward, right? If you want to change the way that it's typed out, the colors it is, right? So that's why I entered in that in the study guide that you need to know the different ways that you can customize it, whether you're doing display, filters, headers, and fonts, okay? So where it said you're going to go on reports and click at top left corner, customize. Okay, good. Next question asks here, okay, the basic questions that each report answers. So once again, that's going to be testing on your knowledge about each report that you do. So again, a lot of the reports that we do within the chapters gives you an explanation why you would run that report. So as you go through the whole entire book, understand if you're doing a sales report, right? If you're doing a sales report by item, that's pretty straightforward, right? You're looking at how many items you sell, which one sells more, right? Based on running your sales report by item, because it gives you a list of all the items and how many people actually bought that product. All right. So that's what it means by what this question says is understand the question that each report answers. So again, what is the profit and loss answer to you? It makes you understand, are you in good terms? Are you in good standing? And if you are, you should have a profit instead of a loss, right? Does your income exceed your overall expenses? That's the answer you're trying to find out, okay? So again, a lot of these reports are going to be answered pretty much through your reading, okay? How and why to send reports to Excel. Okay. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about how first, and then we'll talk about why. Okay, how do you send your reports to Excel? This is also a straightforward answer.
Up in the top where it says Excel.
On the top, you have Excel.
Exactly, right? You just click on that drop-down menu and it will tell you exactly how to do it, right? If you go to Excel, gives you the option to either print or export in your options, okay? Or update it into Excel. Okay, so how on reports, on report, top, click on Excel. Okay. Now, why would you need why would you need to do that? Why would you need to export your information on an Excel spreadsheet?
Sorry, Lynn, I had to restart my computer. It wasn't connecting to the internet.
No worries. It's okay.
What was the question now?
The question is now that if the question is why would I need to send my reports to Excel?
For the calculations?
Not calculations, because calculations, the reports will do it for you automatically.
To make a spreadsheet,
What can you do with those spreadsheets?
make changes.
Exactly. To further customization, right? Customization, right? Right? Because QuickBooks can only do so much. But if you want a specific way that you want things to look, you can go export the report into Excel to further your customization. Okay, you can add images, you can add text, all that information, right? You can add that with Excel. You can even customize your graphs on Excel as well, too, right? You could change colors. You can do if you've done Excel and Excel Advanced, you would be able to, create your more graphs. So again, it's to further customize your report. Okay. All right. How to process multiple reports.
From report, you select
Report menu, process multiple report.
select
Yes.
multiple report.
Good. Correct. Right. You just go to the reports menu and select process multiple reports. Wait, hold on. Let me see where that is. Process multiple reports. Okay. Now, what's the purpose of doing that?
So you can group them together? Same
Yes.
customer?
You can
Okay,
have
not specifically same customer, but it does allow you to group multiple reports so you can have them all run at the same time instead of having to do one at a time. Okay, so yes, that would just be able to run your reports a lot quicker.
You can print it as a group.
Yep. And you can print them as a group as well. So in this case, how to process, right? You just go to reports menu, right? And then click on process multiple reports. Okay. All right. Last two questions here. How and why to send reports to Excel? Okay. I believe the study guide did make that mistake. They wrote the same question twice. So in this case, you already answered that question, so you don't need that question. All right. Next one is how to memorize reports. Okay. How do you memorize reports?
At the top of report,
Yep.
you click memorize.
Report center, memorize tab.
Now, question here. What's so important about memorizing reports?
If you make a mistake, I know, something like that. I don't know.
If your
Not
computer goes down, you don't
The
lose it?
report,
no.
If the report you use pretty often, you don't have to restructure it.
Correct, right? If you customize it, right? So let me go ahead and say this. First, if you customize it, right? Whether you made changes to them, right? Adding a company logo, right? Or you made the reports report fonts to reflect company colors. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. Or whether you formatted a specific report to show certain details. Okay. By memorizing it, right? It saves you time. Okay, it allows you to produce that same exact report with the changes that you've made by running the specific dates, right? It saves you time on having to re-customize it once again. So customizing customizing a report makes it save you time and also to produce that exact report over and over again. Okay, to reuse or run the same report with the saved changes. Okay. And if you want to, like Nancy said, you can also use memorized reports for frequent reports that you use. Okay. How do I get to the memorized transactions if I saved it, but how do I get to there? Where can I locate my memorized reports?
In the memorize window. Oh,
How do I get to the memorized window?
report center.
Report center? Where?
Memorize on the top.
Nope, that's to memorize a report. I'm asking you, after you memorize the report, how do you find it? So I can go ahead and run my report again.
You click memorize it at the top. The
So,
window.
okay, so in this case,
The
yes.
memorize it right there.
You're going to go to the report center. At the top, you have tabs at the top, all right? And this is where you're going to find your memorized reports, okay? Now, if you actually notice this, if you run your report, you have little favorites icons here. If you tap on that, that would just throw it in here in your favorites, okay? That's extra stuff, right? It even shows you what you recently ran, okay? Your report that you just ran today. All right, so this is extra features that you were not being tested on, but it's fun to know. But when you actually memorize your report, in order to find that report, you just go to your report center. At the top, you should find memorized. Okay, so okay, all right, good. Now, next section here is going to be basic accounting. So a student should definitely know. Okay, so chapter 6 right here says, what is the basic financial statements? Okay, so we just answered that, right? Which is, right, the balance sheet, the profit and loss, as well as the statement of cash flows. So we answered that question already. Okay. Now, what is the difference between cash and accrual reports? Okay. Okay. What's the difference between running a cash report versus an accrual report?
One second.
Okay.
The cash is regard income or expenses.
Cash could be for anything. It doesn't have to be
The
specifically to.
accrual is the
Go ahead.
accrual is when you ship a product, render a service, or receive a bill from vendor.
Okay. Now, so cash, right? If you run a report in cash, right? This shows all transactions that were based on cash. Okay? If you spend something and you used cash, it will show up on this report. Okay? If you purchased, or I'm sorry, if you sold something for cash, it will show up on this report. Where the accrual basis, right, will show you all items, right, regardless whether you received cash or not. Okay? Good example would be, like you've mentioned earlier, you will see anything that's an accounts receivable, right? That's not cash you received from your customers, right? It will show you all the bills that you owe because, right? You didn't pay for it. So therefore, the accrual type of accounts will include all of the items or expenses, income, whatever it is that you incurred, whether you received cash or not. Okay? Where the other one is strictly looking at just cash flowing in and flowing out. Okay? So that's the difference between the two reports, is that one of them is going to reflect your cash sales and your cash expenses, where the other ones are going to show you anything that you've earned. So revenues that you've earned regardless whether you receive cash or not. So that will be more towards accounts receivable. And any expenses that you've incurred, whether it's whether you paid or not. So accounts payable, right? This is money that we owe them. So those are the reports that you're going to be focusing on, right? All right, chapter 14, all right? How and why to set a closing date. Let's talk about why. What's so important about setting a closing date?
You can pay your taxes.
No,
Balance your books.
not closing period or closing the books. This is to set a closing date. What's so significant about just setting that closing date?
Why? You say why?
Why?
You you like the file so no one they can make changes after you close it.
Well, can you make changes? I think you answered the question half right. Okay. So in this case, why? I heard you said to lock. That's correct.
You like the file.
Mm-hmm. So no one can make changes.
Changes after, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Make sure the date.
okay. Now, why do we need to lock up our file? That's the what. That's the what. What is the closing date to lock the file? But why is it so important to lock the file?
So that's the counting until that day.
Okay. I'm looking for more ethics wise. Okay. Why is it important?
The fiscal year ended.
So
Okay.
no one can change it.
So no one can change it, but why is it so important not to change that in financial information?
You want to match the the reports, right? At the end of the fiscal year.
Mm, okay. So I'm kind of looking forward for more of an ethics. And what I mean by ethics is that if you can allow someone to change the books whenever you'd like, right? What does that tell about your company?
There could be fraud.
Fraud, yes. So that's why it is so important for you to prevent from fraudulent charges. So to prevent from fraud, okay? That is exactly why you need to set a closing date to lock up the file to prevent fraud. Because if anybody can just go in there and just change things on the books, right? And then when they run the report again, all of a sudden you were missing money, you're missing this, you're missing that. Why is there a check written out to this person? That is exactly why we need to make sure that this doesn't happen. All right. And yes, that is true. You do set it to lock. You
Say like different way, right?
no, to lock. Usually you're right. This is usually at the end of the accounting period, right? Which then allows you to, stop that year and do it and start a new year. Yes. So to okay, so we usually lock the file at the end of a given accounting period. And usually that's after you've closed your books and processed all your financial reports. Okay. Now let's talk about how. How do you set the closing date? How do you set the closing date?
You go to preference.
Yes, good. Edit preferences, good. Edit menu, preferences. Okay.
Company preference.
What
Password.
what topic?
Accounting. They go.
Good. Accounting, and then
accounting. And then set the company preference.
Yep.
Set data and password, no?
That's correct. Well, not set the user password, but you're going to set a password to lock up the data file. Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Remember, that's not the only way, but that is if you go through the company menu and you click on set the closing date, it will take you to this exact window, which is the edit preferences, the accounting, company preferences. Okay. Right. How to create a general journal entry if asked. Okay, I put if asked. Okay. How do you create general journal entries?
General. Select the company menu. Choose make general journal entries.
Good. Company menu. Make general journal entries, okay? Why do you need to make general journal entries?
So to track all the journals entry in separate register.
Okay, no. Right?
So that you can quickly view all the adjustment in place.
That's just creating a bank account for general journal entries. So you can keep track of where all your journals are. But that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, why do you need to create a general journal in the first place? right? It's going to be on the first page in chapter 14.
This is very helpful if you have
If you adjust the balance on two
ever
or more
audited.
accounts,
Yes, adjust balances
two or more accounts.
in 2 or more accounts. What else can you use general journals for?
If you have an audit.
Categorize the transactions.
What kind of transactions? Because in this case, you can use a general journal for anything that you can do in QuickBooks, right? If you know how to do a general journal, you don't even need to use any of the windows. You could just enter all your transactions manually through the general journal. But that's not the purpose of QuickBooks. QuickBooks is not to make you do general journals. It's for you to use the windows to make it that much more easier.
To record any adjustment too.
So any adjustments, okay, we got that. Okay, adjustments,
If you have any audit.
not an audit.
Nope. Reason for that just.
The list should be on that page, on the very first page of chapter 14.
Oh, so recategorize.
Yes, to recategorize, yes. In case you made a mistake, right?
Recategorize a transaction from one account to another.
Mm-hmm.
Allocate prepaid expenses.
Prepaid expenses, good.
Non-cash expenses.
Mm-hmm. Prepaid expenses, non-cash expenses, so also known as depreciation, right? Bad debt is one of them.
And close the other drop.
Yes, to close out owner's draw. Okay, and here's one that you might not know. It's to also enter in opening balances when you create a company file. Right? That's chapter 12, but that's something you should need to know because that's one of the things that you could have entered in using a general journal entry. If you are a pre-existing company and you're using QuickBooks for the first time, but you are pre-existing, this is what you do. You do create a general journal to establish all the opening balances in each account by creating a general journal entry. Okay? Instead of having to go through each and every single account itself and entering in a value or open balance, right? You could just do that all in one journal entry. Okay. All right. Last 2 questions here for chapter 1. How do debits and credits work? Okay. So this is definitely an accounting model question. So if you don't know what that is, it is in the PowerPoint, right? It tells you how a transaction works. If you're using money, you're more likely to credit an asset. If you are gaining revenue, right, you're receiving cash for selling a product, you're going to be increasing your asset with a debit, but you would also be increasing your revenues because you sold something. Okay? So that's this idea right here is understanding what debits and credits do, and I would refer you to the accounting model, which gives you a graph of all the account types, right? Which includes your assets, your liabilities, your equity, your revenues, and your expenses, and it gives you the direction of the flow of transaction, okay? So again, I'm going to put in parentheses, refer to chapter 1 PowerPoint. Okay, in your book they give you kind of like a messy picture with your equity and your assets and your liabilities with that weird picture of your arrows going up and down. This is the one in the PowerPoint gives you a little better explanation for that. Okay. All right, and the accounting equation, what is it again?
Assets equals liabilities plus equity.
Yes, assets equals liabilities plus your equity. So again, in your book, it gives you the picture of this as well. All right. All right, last section of this is going to be customization, which is going to be approximately 12% of your exam, which is roughly 6 questions. So a student needs to know, okay, chapter 14, how and why to memorize transactions. Okay. Why is it so important that you need to memorize your transactions? Okay. Why do you think QuickBooks is called QuickBooks?
To make things move along faster.
Yes, to save time. Okay, to save time. Oh, to save time on creating your transactions. Yes.
No.
Yes, right? The purpose of memorizing transactions is just so that instead of having to enter the same bill every single month, you can automate that by memorizing the exact bill information, because at the end of the day, that bill you're going to be entering in over and over and over again. This will help you save some extra time, because instead of having to fill out a new bill every single time, it will automatically do it for you. All right, so in this case, it's to save you some time. Okay, now how do I memorize a transaction?
You click and memorize at the top,
The top of the
right corner.
transaction memorize.
Yes. Okay, now what can you memorize? Okay, hold on, let me go at the top of a transaction window. Oops, sorry guys, if you can hear my dogs barking. Okay, at the top of the transaction window, you have memorized. Okay, now what can you memorize versus what are the things that you can and cannot memorize? There are specific things you can memorize.
We can't or we can.
We can, as in yes, you can. What can you memorize?
Customer info,
Not customer info.
payments.
No, you cannot memorize payments.
You said like a rent payment, we can memorize because it's always the same.
You cannot memorize a bill payment, but you can memorize the bill. Right? You can't memorize a payment because you can never know whether, one, do you know that you're going to be able to make this payment? What if you're short this month? Can you promise that you're going to pay $600 when you know you don't have $600?
Nope.
No. So you can't memorize that. You can't even you can't memorize what customers pay you either, because you never know what their given financial circumstances are. If they lost their job, do you expect them to pay for the bill? No, they can underpay you. All right? And another thing too is you cannot memorize a payment to a employee, right? Because you never know. What if one day they come in sick? Can you pay for them for that? If you set it up that way, yes, you can. But if you don't offer sick pay, they don't earn that money. So in this case, those are the 3 things that you cannot memorize, right? Because once again, you can only, yes, good. You can memorize invoices, right? Bills, general journal entries. Yes, you can.
Sales receipt.
Sales, yes, sales receipts. Good, okay. Now, how do I get to that memorized transactions list?
to the transaction list
No. How
on
do
the list menu.
on the list?
Report
Okay, good. List
list.
on the menu. You're gonna click on memorized
Transaction list.
transactions. Transaction list. Good. Okay. All right, last 3 questions here. All right, question from chapter 12 is how to set up multiple users and what level of access can each user have or be denied. Okay, so first let's talk about how. How do we set users and passwords? Company menu.
And then you select multi-use. Then how is it? Multi-user. No, then from there you
Switch
use.
from one user to multi-user.
That's not the question that this is asking. This is asking how I set up those users in order to use the multi-user. I need to set up the users before I can allow my file to have access.
You go to preference, no? Company preference.
No. This is not a company preference, no.
You did.
User preference. Then
You did before in the interview.
No, it's not under the interview. Nope. You do not set
No.
your users through the interview. Nope.
I remember you used preference and then you switch to multi-user.
No, you do not set up a preference to switch to multi-users. You can use preferences to go through multiple windows, yes, but not multi-users. Multi-users, you need to set up your users first, and then on the file menu, that's where you can switch from multi-user to single user mode. Now the question is, how do I set up those users in order to use a multi-user mode? Okay. Isabel, you are in the right area. You do need to go to company menu, but what do you need to do to set up those users?
Click add a user.
There's a step before that. How do you do that? So if I go to my company menu, what are my options?
Set up users and passwords.
Set up users and okay. Again, once you do that, you can set up your users there. And then Manny, in this case, it's because I'm in a closed accounting period. So I forgot what my password was. I think it was like A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4 $sign.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's incorrect. Okay. Do I have my cap locks on? No. Okay. Capital A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4 $sign.
Damn, give me a hug since you didn't hug me last night.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, it's not working for me. Okay, so here, even if you do that, you're going to have that window where that's where you add your users. Okay. Nancy, I think you have your microphone on. Can you please mute yourself? All right. So, here we go.
It was 1, 2, 3, 4.
I did that. It's
Right,
okay.
three,
It's
four.
okay. Don't worry about it. But once you do that and you click on set up users, okay, so you're gonna be on the company and you're gonna do set up users and passwords. Okay. And from there, you can add your users there. And then when you go through that whole setup, it's just gonna ask you a series of questions, right? What does this person have access to? And you either click yes or no. Do they have access to payroll? You say yes. You say no. How much access do they have? Can they add in transactions? Can they edit transactions? Can they delete transactions? All right, you could either give them full access or some access. So again, once again, that is all in chapter 12. It should be the very last section in chapter 12. Okay. All right, last two questions here. How and why to create custom fields? Let's talk about how first. How do we create custom fields?
My favorite?
Say that again?
Customer center.
No, in my favorite?
No.
What's my favorite? Nope.
How do I create custom fields?
From customer center, you add a new.
Okay, let's go customer center. And I add a new customer. Okay.
Right there.
Where's there? Okay, you go.
You fill it out the form, right?
I'm asking you to create custom fields, not create a customer profile.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, but you're in the right area. You're in the right area.
Additional info?
Additional info.
Customer type and customer field. Okay.
What does this button say right here?
Define field.
There you go. And then this is their custom fields, right? So this is where you can create extra information that you find out whether it's a customer, vendor, or employee, right? And this is where you could create custom fields. So then when you find out the information, you can type in whatever you'd like to that you know about that particular person. Okay? So in this case, all right, how, depending on what profile you are in, whether it's a customer, so I'm going to put just person profile, okay? Right? Doesn't matter who, right? The next thing that you got to do is you got to go to additional information, okay? And then you're going to click on define fields. Okay? What's the rule here? How many fields, how many total custom fields can you create?
15?
15. How many can each person have?
Any,
No, they can't. They can only have up to 7. Okay?
up to 7.
Up to 7.
That I miss.
Okay? Up to 7 fields. Okay? Now for items, in this case, the book does not teach you this, but for items, you have up to 5. Okay? But the book doesn't teach you it, so that you don't really need to know that. You just need to know 15 and 7 because they primarily teach you just the people version. Okay? But for items, if you want to make a note of this as a mental note, you have up to 5 custom fields for items. Okay, so that means accounts, items itself, like, right? You could create custom bank accounts, right? So under assets, right, you have right now 5, right? Those custom ones are your bank account, your accounts receivable, other current assets, your fixed assets, and then other assets. Okay, those are what I'm talking about that you can create. You don't have to have those titles. You can modify those titles. Okay, but those for those kind of items, only 5. Now, why is it so important to create custom fields?
take care of your customer?
Good, right? Customer, vendor, employee. The idea of creating custom fields is to gather more information, right? About a person, right? And you can use that for your advantage, whether it's a marketing strategy, okay? Whether it's to have your employees trust you, right? To make them feel like they're welcome here, that when they work here, you know something about that person, right? Another thing is if it's a vendor, right? If you establish a relationship with your vendor, you can use that as a way of getting yourself
And
well known, right? They can invite you into their circle, right?
we can add a message when the invoice too, right?
You wouldn't add personal messages on invoices, no. Okay? It's a conversation starter. All right? And the ultimate goal here is to build your relationship. Okay? By you knowing extra information about a particular person, the main goal is you're trying to build a relationship with that person, because it's all about networking when it comes to business. Right? Last but not least, we have how to customize templates. Okay? How do we customize our templates?
Do preferences?
Not preferences. Okay. Maybe we should elaborate on the why. Lists. Okay, good. Lists. List menu. Where do I go from list menu?
Choose
Into
templates.
Yes, templates. Good. Now, why is it important to customize our templates?
Because it's for our business?
Yes, you want to personalize your forms to represent your business, right? You don't want to send no Intuit invoice to a random person and expect them to know who you are, right? Because again, the basic Intuit templates, right? It's plain, it's boring. There's nothing unique that pops out, nothing that makes you, different amongst any other company, right? But if you're able to customize it, put your own logo in there, put your logo or your company colors in your templates, you're not only personalizing each form to tailor for your company, but it makes you stand out from every other company. Okay, so that's the important thing about being able to personalize or to customize those templates to personalize your company. Good. All right. And that is it. All right. So that was all of the things that you need to know. There could be a few things that are more, but this is what they set you out to study for. So we answered as much as we can. Again, some of the things I left a little blank just because, again, if you want to go into more details, that just makes it, you have a higher chance to pass the exam because you're allowing yourself to know even more in depth about QuickBooks. Okay. So once again, make sure you exercise every single way to do one transaction. So if I ask you to enter in a bill, you better be able to tell me all 6 or 7 ways. Okay. How do I receive a payment? Make sure you know all those ways. How do I reconcile my bank account? You need to know all 3 ways. Okay. So again, you need to know all of that. All other than that, go ahead and use the study guide for your to help you practice for the exams. Okay. So from here on out, we are complete with the study guide. Okay. Any
Lena, you're gonna
questions?
post this copy with the answers in the Google Classroom?
That's correct.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Okay. So once again, all